And we are live on the 74th edition of the Red Man Group. I'm your host and moderator, Donovan Sharp. We are presented in part by the 21 Convention. And we are live on the 74th edition of the Red Man Group. I'm your host and moderator, Donovan Sharp. Hang on. We are presented in part by the 21 Convention. And we are live on the 74th edition of the Red Man Group. I'm your host. Oh, there it is. What happened? Can you guys still hear?
Yeah, I think it was the remix.
Oh, remix.
Exactly.
We are brought to you by the 21 Convention. They're now in Warsaw, Poland. That's going to jump off, I think, this coming up weekend, July 18th through the 21st in Warsaw, Poland. You guys can also get tickets to October's event in Orlando, which goes down on October 24th through the 27th. So act now, because the earlier you buy, the more you save. Before we get started, let's introduce today's esteemed panelists. We have all the way from the West Coast, we got my man Bobby Dino, DDJ, the author of The Feminist Lie, also of the YouTube channel, what is it, Misandry Today? And then, of course, none other than Steve the Dean Williams. What's going on, guys? How are we doing this morning?
Doing good.
Doing well, sir. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So what we're going to talk about today, guys, is we're going to talk about surviving the red pill. And just to sort of set this up for everyone, I'll take it in this direction. When men find the red pill, like anything in life, we go through a number of stages. Now, some men never really get through all the stages. A lot of men, end up stuck in the anger phase and end up as what I like to call bottom-dwelling, low-level MGTOWs who jerk off to hentai porn. And if they have the money, they start relationships, with people online, inanimate objects, and things of that nature. Now, some men never make it past the first stage because they're afraid of what might happen if they go down the rabbit hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys my 7 stages, the 7 stages that most men go through when they find the red pill, according to yours truly. Stage number 1 is shock. You can't believe what you're seeing and reading, right? You had a feeling that things were kind of fucked up between men and women, but you didn't really know them. You see that first piece of red pill material that gives you that confirmation. Me, myself, I was so close to finding the red pill on so many occasions. I remember actually reading the book, How to Become an Alpha Male, way back in 2008. It was by a guy by the name of John Anthony. John Anthony was his pen name. At that point, I was going through a divorce and I was kind of looking for some guidance. That, of course, helped me out a little bit, but I didn't find the red pill. The second stage, of course, is the anger phase and the depression. This stage comes on almost immediately after the shock wears off. You're pissed off at everybody. You're pissed off at mom, your dad, your dog, everybody. And the reason why, guys, is because you've been sold a bad bill of goods. Now, what a lot of men end up doing is they think, okay, the world lied to me on purpose. But the further you go, the more you learn about red pill awareness, the more you understand that it's not really anyone's intention to lead you astray, at least not then. Then you become angry at women. You start to relive past relationships. It becomes plainly obvious that girl X, Y, or Z had cheating on you. Now, this stage, gentlemen, this lasts for a while. And I would say I would put the anger phase lasting between 1 and 4 months, just depending upon who you are. And how you found the red pill. Most men get stuck in this stage, guys, and they never recover. Again, this is when they become low-level MGTOWs, which are basically incels, monks. They check out of the dating market, and then they like to make fun of guys who have relationships with actual women. But I'm not going to, that's neither here nor there. The next stage is euphoria. So now you've accepted the red pill. You can visualize yourself changing. I did the same thing. When I found the red pill, I made all these plans. I'm going to travel. I'm going to save money. I'm going to be fucking a bunch of women. You're also very excited to see and hear like-minded men talk about the same things. This is why I started writing for sites like Return of Kings and doing a podcast. The stage after that is gluttony. This is the 4th stage. You're reading and watching red pill content all day, every day. You're on your phone. You're on your tablet. You're on your laptop computer. You're listening and watching everywhere you go. The next stage is addiction. You can't go more than a few hours without reading red pill websites, Return of Kings, Illimitable Man, any of the other 78 sites that you have bookmarked. It's almost like you're a crackhead. You're looking for that next fix, or you start to get twitchy. The sixth phase is application. This is where you start honing your newfound superpowers. You're hitting the gym, you're eating clean, and you're taking up productive masculine hobbies. Your confidence is growing. So you're talking to girls however you damn well please, and they're kind of lapping up your game, right? They can see a difference in you. Also, you're not watching TV as much or wasting time on social media because you just don't have the time anymore, right? You'd rather be working out. You'd rather be maybe writing a book. You'd rather be reading a book. You'd rather be doing you'd rather be doing masculine things other than just time sucking activities. And then finally, the final stage, guys, is congruency. The red pill at this point, guys, is no longer an idea. It is who you are. You're in better shape. You've done a little bit of traveling. You plan to do a little bit more. Your financial outlook has improved. Now, right now, you're banging mainly 6s and 7s pretty consistently. This isn't where you want to be, but you are headed in the right direction, and it's only a matter of time before you're in the best shape of your life. You have the money to live the life the way you want to live, and you're knee deep in quality ass on the regulars. Now, a lot of guys might think to themselves, okay, cool. The process isn't easy, but it's, nothing worth doing ever is. But as long as I stay the course, I can get through it. And they would be right. But guys who get engulfed in the red pill often get lost in an ocean of red pill content. Yes, it is very important to consume red pill content daily, but when guys find the red pill, they inevitably ask themselves, okay, I have all of this knowledge. What do I do? So what I've done, guys, is I've compiled just a small list of things that men should do and things that men should avoid when they first find the red pill. I'm going to get everybody's thoughts on my number one. The first thing you should do when you find the red pill, stop worrying about getting laid. Okay? Yes, the reason why you found the red pill is because of women. You either got your heart broken or you're sexually frustrated or both. But guys, don't put the cart before the horse, right? If you want to bang 5s and 6s for the rest of your life, that's fine, but you're going to end up stagnating. A lot of guys make this mistake and they make their lives all about getting laid. Then they end up failing because they don't take the time. They get lucky and then they find a girl that they like, then they backslide into blue pill habits. Guys, pussy's always going to be there. Don't worry about it. There are no special girls. You have time. Steve, I want to get your thoughts on this first. In terms of men finding the red pill, men figuring out, okay, this is the life that I want to live. I know how women are. I'm just going to go out and sleep with a bunch of women. What are your thoughts on putting the cart before the horse? Should guys go out and try to get laid after finding the red pill, or should they kind of back it up a little bit and improve themselves in other areas first?
Well, I really feel like that most of these guys need instruction first. Before they do anything, they need guidance. So before they even get to what you're saying, which I agree with what you're saying, but before they do that, they've got to, what I call, bite the gold and see if the person that there's a lot of false prophets in this game.
Right. Oh, yes.
There's a lot of guys pushing manhood when they ain't really men. Because real recognize real. I mean, yeah, if you're a real person, you can recognize real. So, but these guys can't. So a lot of guys come to you as a false prophet, pushing this narrative that I can get you out of your situation. Follow me down this pathway of being more like a feminine woman, blaming, being a victim, problematic, not solution-based. So a lot of these guys, what they'll do is they're all like about, nowadays, guys about click counts. So right. If this guy has 500,000 followers, then that means he's the Messiah. That means he can get me out of this thing. He can help me. I'll follow him. These guys don't really kick the tires or peel back the layers to see that most of these false prophets are really women, emotional women, pushing the agenda to force these men down the same pathway that they're going down. So I think what they got to do first is they got to find someone that's real in the game, not someone that sits around and proclaims they're real, but they got to do their homework, and they don't do that because a lot of these guys are blinded by the quick fix. A lot of these false prophets are like, okay, well, I'll show you how to be red pill in a day.
Right.
I'll show you how to be red pill in a weekend and all this stuff. So follow me because I got all these subscribers. And so I think the first thing they got to do is they've got to find somebody that teaches them how to be authentic and real in this, because a man can only be authentic. So they got to just simply they got to divide the false prophets from the real men. Just because these guys say they're red pill doesn't mean they're red pill.
Right.
If someone says they're a man doesn't mean they're a man, Donovan.
Excellent. Very, very good. We might actually come back to that topic because you raised a very good point. DDJ, what are your thoughts? Man finds the red pill. Donovan, do stop worrying about getting laid. That's all going to take care of itself. Let's say.
All right. So let me kind of start at the beginning because I want to unpack some of what you originally talked about. Okay. So to me, in finding the red pill, I see it as like the 5 stages of grief. Oh. And the reason I say it is the 5 stages of grief is because the red pill is the painful truth. And the reality is that when people first discover the red pill, they see it as a painful truth. And I know, like for myself, I was red pilled early on. I mean, what's defined as red pill? Like I learned this whole red pill concept early on. You know, for those who don't know, I was raised 15 of 18 years in foster care and on the street. No, before I was 18. Yeah. So like all the stuff that normally would be considered red pill wisdom, like I knew that coming up. However, where my mistake fell was that I had a gynocentric blind spot where I didn't necessarily think that the realities that I applied to every other aspect of my life applied to the female I was with. So I was blue pilled when it came to women. When I say women, I mean emotional relationships, but I was red pill when it came to everything else. I mean, I cut my teeth like the last episode I was on. I talked about NWA and used the NWA quote. I mean, that's the thing is, women are nothing but bitches and hoes, right? That was my attitude coming up. But you have that, but you have that relationship, the different set of rules apply. And that's where I had that gynocentric blind spot. So when the reality of everything started to set in, I realized that, pardon me again, the rules that I apply to other aspects of my life apply to women. I had to go through the 5 stages of grief, which originally was denial. Then it was anger. Then I kind of bargained a little bit. Then there was a lot of depression. And then I accepted it. And that was the reality of my personal journey to get away from the gynocentric attitudes and to move toward a kind of more of a red pill understanding. Now, the thing that I want to let people know is this. Anger, otherwise known as the red pill rage, that happens multiple times in your life. Every time that these subjects come up, every time it's like a man when they're going through the red pill phases, they have like a red pill PTSD. So when these things come up again, you get angry all over again. And it's not that you get triggered. It's not like you've been Pavlov to it or anything like that. Right. But it's at the same token, it's that you're having to emotionally relive what you're going through. And so the reason I bring this up, and the reason I bring this up as PTSD, is because you made a very poignant point early on where you said a lot of guys will relive their relationships. We've all done that. And that's where the depression comes in. And part of that is because we are not looking ahead. We are looking over our shoulder, and we are looking at what's behind us where we will never be again. And we are not looking ahead. Now I'm gonna come back to that in a second.
Okay.
But the most important thing is that, and I said this in the last stream as well, is that you take what is useful, you abandon the rest. So like when you talk about and Steve really drove this point home. There are a lot of false prophets here. There are a lot of people who their only purpose here is to make money. It's not to help men. And so I never consider myself a leader or any kind of prophet. I'm just one voice of many. And so for when I try to talk to people, especially with my content, my goal is not for people to be tribalistic or to be followers, but it's to teach them to be shepherds, not sheep. And so when we talk about that, part of the reason that I say this is because I take this from a men going their own way lens. So I agree with you in your aspects of what you call your red pill awareness, with the exception that I would say probably the majority of what I would refer to as the unstated men going their own way community, they don't fall into that trap. A lot of men, myself included, we can get laid. We've been laid. We've got children. We've been through these things. But the reason that we choose to not have these long-term relationships is because remember when I told you about red pill knowledge? Yeah. I said red pill knowledge is knowledge, and every man chooses how to apply it themselves in their own way. Some guys do PUA, some guys do different things, some guys get married, some guys go MGTOW. That's just kind of how it is. For the majority of the MGTOW who are not part of the incel movement, the reason they stay away from women is because of the legal system, because of the Me Too. And the other side of it is that there were a lot of refugees from the PUA community who came into the men going their own way community.
I like that. Refugees. That's a good term for that. That makes a lot of sense.
Well, it is, because Night Game is mostly dead. And really, a lot of these guys, when they left the PUA community, it was because feminists targeted the PUA community when Roosh came out with neo-masculinity.
Right. And I was a part of that neo-masculine movement. I was writing in that. Yeah.
So then my final point I want to make is this. If you're a guy and you're, in your first year of Red Pill, or even in your 10th year of Red Pill, the reality is this: you don't need to consume content daily. You don't need to follow 20 different people to try to figure out what is best. What you need to be able to do is to look in the mirror. If you want to do something on the daily, read, educate yourself. You want to do something on the daily, have an exercise regimen, a fitness regimen of some kind. You want to do something on the daily, start planning for your financial future. Start acting like an adult, participate in your communities, don't socially isolate. Those are the things that are the most important things to do. And then when you get done, then you can consume Red Pill content with a deeper understanding, because you've already adopted that lifestyle. Wow. You've already said, and again, this isn't about narcissism or being unhealthily selfish. This is about self-preservation and taking care of yourself as a man. A man will always receive criticism. A man will always go through life's storms, and people will always bring drama to your doorstep. But if you're living that lifestyle and you're taking care of yourself, you're getting fit, and you're educating yourself on the daily, you're reading, maybe at the very least a few books a month, and you're doing all the things to improve your life, your example is what helps other men be masculine from a healthy perspective. You become the shepherd, not the sheep.
Excellent. Well said, DDJ. You also said something. You don't have to consume Red Pill content daily. Just do Red Pill things. And when we say do Red Pill things, just means have a regimen, have an exercise regimen, work out every day, read every day, improve yourself.
Well, and let me give a quick analogy of that as well. Okay, it's the difference between the guy who practices martial arts every day compared to the guy who watches martial arts movies every day.
Okay, that makes sense.
Who's in a better position to take care of themselves?
That's exactly right. Here's another difference: a difference between a guy who actually gets laid and a guy who watches porn. Right? I think we could probably make that same analogy. Bobby, let me get your thoughts in on this. So a guy finds the red pill. He learns that women are not made of sugar, spice, and everything nice. He decides, all right, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to change the red pill life. My advice to him for now, in the meantime, don't worry about getting laid. Women are always going to be there. What are your thoughts on that?
First off, I think you're absolutely correct. The second you want to make an improvement in your life, you have to accept the responsibility and accountability for everything, right? And part of that is not bringing others into your accountability, and that includes the women too. So you may have had a problem with women. You may have been red pilled in a way. Like DDJ, I was very early on, just the type of family I have. I got a lot of old, wise guy Italian uncles, and they were very, very quick to school me on how chicks were young, early on. My own personal red pill moment where I was like, wow, was my ex-wife, the mother of my son, is one of those type of women who threatens to call the police and say false things. And having somebody do that to me. And then when I came home and married my current wife, she even got a little crazier with it. So having that is weird, like somebody that uses the police as like a weapon, that's weird. So what I would recommend, that was kind of when I had my own personal eye-opening. And she did all types of crazy stuff. I had to go to court over false child support claims and all this different stuff. Just so I can understand and see where dudes get frustrated. I'm not just some guy going like, oh, well, what you need to do is not blame girls. I went through the shit.
Right.
Like I had a battle with this. So I'm coming from somewhere when I'm sharing this with you guys. The first thing that somebody needs to do once they come to like an awareness is look at themselves, go inward. Okay, like how DDJ was saying, read a book. Okay, start getting some information on yourself that doesn't necessarily have to do with red pill. And what I mean by that is you can specialize in all different ideologies and psychologies and all this. You know, you can, if you want to read about developmental psychology, go over here, you know, if you want to. But if you're talking about building yourself, start reading ways that you can build yourself in a positive way. Start reading ways that you can affect your own positive change, because one thing that, and I'm sure every man here can agree with me on this, when you see somebody that looks like they're trying to get something, that person comes across as needy.
Right.
And when you see a needy person, you kind of have this natural thing, at least I do, and everybody else I know, you're just kind of like, and it's having the opposite effect of what they desire, because they're really after a thing, but what they're putting out is actually pushing stuff away.
Right.
And the reason being is instead of going inside and seeing what they can do for themselves, they're pursuing a thing. I don't know if I'm making the right sense here, or
No, that
if I'm coming across with what I'm saying. Okay, cool. But my recommendation would be, and it was kind of funny because DDJ said, you know, it's the difference between like a martial artist who watches it on TV, and then there's a guy that goes to the gym, right? Well, I'll take it one step further. There's a guy that goes to the gym and spars, and then there's a guy that's been in a bunch of riots. You know, there's levels to it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's like you can delve like and chase what you think you want, but all that's going to do is spin you in this circle of a continual chase, because you're going to just drive away whatever you're going after. So turn inward, see what the problem is inside first, and then go, okay, now that I've figured this out, let me see what I can do to figure the rest of this stuff out. Because if you're not accepting responsibility for everything around in your own, and not really kind of trying to dive into the problem of what's going on with you, it's not going to work with anything else ever. Everything else is just a time bomb.
Excellent. Well said. I want to come back to this. And Steve said something very, very important. When we first find the red pill, we consume red pill content. He said false prophets. There are a lot of guys out here. There are many different kinds of false prophets, right? I'm not going to get into them because there are a lot of them out here. The false prophet that I'm interested in is the guy who says he's red pill, but he's really not red pill. The guy who says he can get laid, the guy who says he has control over his life, control over his wife or girlfriend, but doesn't really. He's the guy who basically just comes out of nowhere. He parrots a bunch of ideas. He sounds great. He looks good on camera. He sounds great on the camera, and people buy into who he is. Oh, look, this guy has 200,000 subscribers. He must know what he's talking about. So, Steve, and this might be tough for a lot of people to maybe think about our answer, but how do you tell the difference between someone who is what you call a false prophet and someone who genuinely has and lives the red pill life? Because that can't be easy. There are a lot of false prophets out here that do a very good job emulating the real guy. So how do you tell the difference, or can you tell the difference?
Well, you can't tell the difference because, again, I come from a different time. So the guys I hang with, we don't have issues that most of these people have when it comes to these relationship things.
Okay.
The thing that I've noticed is that a lot of people try to scare people and not to do things. They try to scare people not to have relationships. They try to scare people not to get married. They try to scare people not to have babies and children and all that other stuff. And that's bullshit. I'm gonna call that. I don't respect people like that, because they take
specifically the single mom thing. Like, let's stay away from single mothers.
Again, they got this ABC type thinking, and that's where you can tell a false prophet, because just because it happens to you doesn't mean it's gonna happen to me. Just because she's gonna treat you like a bitch doesn't mean she's gonna treat me like one. But what these guys do is they back in the 70s, Donovan, they came up with this program to scare kids who were like knuckleheads and bad in the street. Right. So what they would do is they would take them to jail, take them to prison, and scare.
They still do it.
Well, yeah, well, yeah, okay. You know, Bob, my dog, Bob, crazy.
Oh, they still do it, bro. Don't get it twisted.
Right. No, so they take them there and they scare them, and I think that's a great thing. I think that's a good thing to scare them to see that if you keep going down this pathway, this is what's probably going to happen to you. But when it comes to this women thing, man, look, to be real, I don't believe a woman has that kind of control over a man because I've never dealt with that, nor do my clients or the people I roll with. You know, everybody screams about the Me Too movement and all this other stuff. Think about the Me Too movement on my side of the spectrum. The Me Too movement ain't nothing but a ant walking down the street. That has nothing to do with a man. Because the Me Too movement to me is about your job. And if you want to eat and shit where you work at, then that's on you. But outside of the work, them women don't have no power over my domain or how I move around in the Serengeti. But what a lot of these guys do is that they want to see this thing is deeper, Donovan, than just the profits, because a lot of these guys seem like they're working for women because it's the women that want to control the narrative. You know what I mean?
Yep.
By telling these young men that you can't. Who tells a man what he can and cannot do?
That's correct.
What you mean I can't get married? What you mean I can't have kids? Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes, look, we are blinded by the light a little bit. That happens to us all.
We're human.
Right, we're human. But I'm never going to take my experience and scare somebody else into not doing it, because a lot of these young men right now, they've green. You know what I mean? They're looking for information and they're looking to get help, Donovan. And if you coming along telling somebody that don't get married, don't have kids, beware of women, then you're going to mess their whole psyche up because again, they so worried about the outside world, Donovan.
Right.
Teaching them about take care of your own goddamn business. Draw a line in the sand. I'm not going to say become a man, because becoming a man is a lot of things you got to do. But the thing that it just irks me is that when guys try to push up their agenda on someone else, teach these boys to be better men and let them decide if I want to have a marriage, if I want to have children, and if I want to lead a life and all this other stuff. Yes, look, the court system's out there, the child support system out there, divorce is bad and all this other stuff. But you know me, Donovan, being real is about preventative maintenance.
That's right.
You learn how to do you teach them how to do the preventative maintenance in the front end, then it would never get to a point of having children or being in a bad relationship. Now, again, all of us have had bumps and bruises that we can say, okay, look, this is what happened to me, but this is what happened to me. It's not saying it's going to happen to you. But what these guys are doing is they scared, like I say, DDJ, I guess you Met-Tal and all the other stuff. I don't mess with the Met-Tals, but you know, like you were saying,
I get it.
You know, you said that there's lower Met-Tal. I'm just a man, dog.
He's not here for the labels.
Not all about
no. I guess what I was saying is this: is like I agree with you when it comes to a lot of the things that you say. I think that a man should be able to make his decision. That's why what I tell people, like on my channel, when I tell people, I'm like, red pill is knowledge. What you choose to do with it is yours. And the question is that I agree with you that if we get to these men quickly and we do this preventative maintenance, then these men can make smarter decisions. But more importantly, they can plan for the storm. Right. When did Noah build the ark? Before the flood.
No, I'm good with all that. No, I'm fine with all that. But what I'm saying is, what I don't like, that voice for men and that shrink for men and all that stuff, all these like cuddle party things. I can't stand how they're not forcing these guys like Bobby. Bobby said it the best: accountability, responsibility.
There you go.
He nailed that on the head, because a lot of these boys are not learning it. See, it's one thing to say something, Donovan, but we got to teach them to be more accountable and responsible, to become what? Solution based. Looking for the solutions and not dwelling in the problems. But see, what a lot of guys do outside of this room right here is that they will sell books. You know what I mean? Try to push like, okay, well, keep buying this book and buy this book. And I'm working on the next book and next book and next book. And like I said, reading books is not a bad thing. Bobby talked about, reading, y'all in DDG, reading books is not a bad thing. But when it comes, a bad thing is that when you only read the book, Donovan, a book can't teach you how to drive. A book can't teach you how to catch a football. A book can't teach you how to really be a man. It can teach you certain things, but what these guys do is they get caught into the books, and all they're doing is flipping pages.
Red pill masturbation is what they call it. They just all they do is consume red pill content, and they don't do anything with it.
Right, but they don't go outside their door.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. So when I mean as far as those false prophets, they need somebody to tell them it's okay to get knocked down. It's okay to have women. It's okay to have relationships. It's okay if you choose to have a kid, have one. It's okay if you don't want one. If you don't want to get married, you don't have to get married. If you do, don't feel that we're not going to shame you in it. We're going to teach you how to prevent certain things. Those are the ones that I like to rock with. But anybody trying to scare these kids, man, those are what I'm saying, the false prophets, because these young boys are impressionable, like a baby.
Yeah,
they're out there. I guess they're out of that what you call that blue pill thing, and they're trying to learn how to be men. And what they'll do is they'll follow these guys that, again, women things, you know, talking bad about the 21, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, trying to talking bad. I mean, what I'm saying is pushing a narrative to stop other men from being men. And that's where and real quick, I'm sorry on my soapbox. I just want to
go ahead, you got it.
Pushing other men to hate men that try to teach you how to be men. That's, right. You see what I'm saying? You know, you got a group of the call them the Hall of Doom type characters that they're not pushing manhood. They're saying, no, screw these other guys over here, and let's go ahead and try to stop their movement. And that's the problem, because these young boys believe in what those guys are saying, and then they'll come over here not like, you know, a bunch of dislikes, sure, and a bunch of memes and all this other. That's not teaching these boys manhood. That's feminine things. Yeah. So that, you know, it's a lot of things, man. It's a lot of things.
This is the reason why I haven't been involved in the scuffle, because I just don't. I'm just not that good at it. Real quick, big thanks goes out to Street King with a $10 super chat. So DDJ, piggybacking off of what Steve said, how would you advise somebody comes to you? All right, DDJ, I found the red pill, but there's so much information out there. I heard you guys on the Red Man Group episode 74 talk about false prophets. I know that there are a lot of guys out there who are steering me the wrong way. They're fake. How do I distinguish the difference between the guys who are for real and the guys who are not so real?
I think the guys who shame you and tell you that it's all your fault, those guys are full of shit. That's just the reality. Because here's the thing. Because at the end of the day, you know, if you come home from work, right? Let's say you have a house, okay? And you come home from work and your house, which has an alarm and is locked, is robbed while you're gone. But you put a lock on the door. You had an alarm in the situation and your shit's stolen. Is that your fault?
Right.
No, it's not. So I think that there has to be a healthy balance between, when we talk about red pill wisdom, when we talk about red pill knowledge and experience, there has to be a healthy understanding of what is your fault and what is not. So like one of the things we used to joke about way back in the day, and again, I was raised in the hood. So we used to read the paper back before the internet. And it was hilarious because we would read about this guy who drove through the hood and he got robbed, he got carjacked, right? Or he got shot, or something happened to him, right? And then you read the article and you go down a little bit and you realized this dumbass was in the hood at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Like, what do you do?
And he drove around with his car, and his car was not unlocked. And so you're like, you are asking for problems, right? You're in the hood at 3 in the morning in the bad neighborhood, and then you make the dumbass idea to stop and ask for directions.
Like, why would you do that? And then complain that they got robbed. Oh my God, how did I get robbed?
Yeah. So in that light, that I agree completely with Steve when it comes to that. When you set yourself up for failure, that's a problem. I also disagree with this idea of complementarianism. Now, this is more of kind of a religious viewpoint. I agree with a lot of the views of a blogger who's been around for over 10 years. I think his name is Dalrock.
Yes.
And Dalrock talks about how, you know, like this Eat, Pray, Love, and there's like some movies that came out where basically, you know, the woman is a whore, she's a cheater, and the guy's just supposed to put up with it because he's a good Christian man. And really, the only way I can sum that up is anybody who thinks that needs to go play hide and go fuck themselves. Because at the idea that you should be a fucking doormat for women, or you should just sacrifice yourself at the altar of the golden vagina, that's all bullshit. But I do believe, and this is one of the things that I've talked with Anthony the Dream Johnson a lot behind the scenes, is that the issue that we have is that too many people in the manosphere, they focus on the difference in tribe. They focus on the difference between dating coaches and PUAs, which are different, and what a lot of people on the outside think of as what MGTOW truly are. And the reality is what a lot of people think MGTOW truly aren't. There are a lot of voices out in the MGTOW community that the reality is they're incels, they're angry, they're not red pill. And you can see it because they brigade people and they do these things. But then there's a lot of other voices that are like, yeah, do what you do and call it good, right? So the other thing I want to touch on too that I think is extremely important, like I said, and this is important to reiterate, Steve Dean Williams hits the nail on the head when he says that front-end maintenance is important. You have to be proactive. But the problem that I see is, at least with a lot of my subscribers, is that they're like me. They got the gynocentric blind spot discovery late in the game. They already got cheated on. They already got divorce raped. They already got falsely accused of sexual assault or sexual harassment, or they're in their 20s and they're trying to figure out how to be a good father. And their life has already got wrecked. And for those guys, I think the most important lesson, if any of the listeners are going through that, it's not important to maintain frame as much as it's important to regain your frame.
Ah, that makes sense.
And so the idea here is that, it's easy to tell a man or a young boy who's, 12 to 18 years old, look, front end maintenance is important. Don't worry about what all these other guys say. And all those teachings are valid. But when you got a guy who's 22 to 45 and he's already been wrecked and he already knows what that situation is like, he has to learn how to navigate to get back to zero. And I agree with Steve in that we can't always necessarily focus on the family law perspective. Like I do the legal side. And so I do definitely talk about the Me Too and the risks and the rewards. And I do believe that you don't shit where you sleep or where you work. That's why I tell people, look, don't date a woman where you live. Don't date a woman where you go to school, and don't date a woman where you work, period.
Don't get laid where you get paid.
That's it. And more importantly, don't cross the fucking streams. Don't do it. If you know that she's a timeshare, treat her as a timeshare and then go home when the vacation's over, right? That's the reality. So
I'm gonna write that down. I could do an episode.
right. But my point is this, right?
That's good. That's good.
Be accountable for your dumbass decisions. Don't be in the hood at 3 a.m. in the morning and your doors aren't locked and you stop and ask for the guy who's all tatted up smoking a crack rock and you ask him for directions. Anything that happens to you at that point, that's absolutely your fault. But men should never take accountability for things that they have no control over. Now, I also agree with Steve that a lot of these young boys, they need multi-generational mentoring. And I know he didn't say it in those terms, but that's really what he's talking about, where we need to not only get together, and have these conversations online, but we need to get together to physically, right? Whether it's a meetup, whether it's the 21 convention, whether it's, the YouTubers getting together and doing a barbecue together. The reality is that humans are social animals. So if we socially isolate and all we do, like you said, all you do all day is sit and masturbate to porn and you never talk to anybody and you never go out into the world, you never actually do the things, that's an issue. And I agree with Steve in that the only way to success is failure. Now, I will say this, though. The caveat is this. Not a lot of men have the risk tolerance to get divorce, raped in family court.
Right.
But if you follow red pill wisdom and you don't shit where you eat and you don't shit where you sleep and you don't, make dumbass decisions because your dick is leading you, the odds of you going to family court or to get a DV order against you or to be falsely accused of something, they go down drastically. And so that's why when Steve talks about, the people that he coaches, and I know, other coaches say the same, say similar things. When you talk about those things and those things people coach, it's because they're applying all that red pill wisdom and judgment.
Right.
And so we're clear. If another guy wants to date a single mom, that's entirely up to them. But to me, single mom is like fucking fast food. You eat it when you're hungry. You don't invest in it. Right? Because like a single mom, you know, and again, this is my personal opinion for myself. What you choose to do is up to you. But what I'm saying is this: I would rather have a woman who I know that if my perfect world was, you know, I meet a girl in my 20s, I have children with her, I get married with her, and I spend the rest of my life with her, right?
Right.
The reason that a lot of these single moms, not all, hashtag not all, but the reason a lot of these single moms are where they're at is because they bought into the feminist lie. They think that every time a man disagrees with them, it's verbal abuse. They think that, you know, every time that their child manipulates them, it's somebody else's fault.
Yes.
They're not, and again, it's not their fault. They've been lied to too. I don't hate women, but on the same token, you know, you keep their aces in the places. If it's only good for a lay, then that's all you use it for. And if it's good for something else, well, that's a horse of a different color. And I think that again, like I said, red pill wisdom and red pill knowledge is just that. How each man chooses to apply it is determined by his judgment and by what his risk tolerance is there. He has to do a cost benefit analysis. This is why we used to teach men good judgment, what we call red pill wisdom today. We used to teach men that. And we used to say, look, these are the types of women that you take home for the evening. These are the types of women that you want to have a relationship with.
Right.
And that's why when you see these people that are like, oh, well, you know what? I got engaged. I met this girl and I've been with her 3 months and now we're engaged. And then 6 months later, you're married. And maybe that marriage lasts for 5 years, but it dies. And then they don't understand why that relationship died. And it was like, well, maybe I didn't maintain frame. Maybe I didn't do this. Maybe I didn't do that. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe you need to go back to the original fucking relationship. And maybe your dumbass shouldn't have gotten engaged for 2 years. So you could have seen this woman through all seasons twice. Because I'll tell you what, the nice thing about the truth is this. When time doesn't lie, when people invest in you, you see it over time. That is the reality.
Yes.
And so, you know, when people compartmentalize you and when they lie to you and when they're trying to take advantage of you, they do that so that you can't see them for who they really are. That's why I tell people this. You really want to know the measure of a woman? You get to know her through all seasons twice. You see her at her best.
I like that.
Yeah. And the reason is because you see her at her best, at her worst twice. You get to know her family. You make sure she doesn't compartmentalize you. You make sure that you do the things to make sure she's worth your time. Because if she is not an asset, she is absolutely an expense. And for women who are an expense, the rule is this. If it flies, if it floats, or if it fucks, you rent, you don't buy.
Well said, DDJ. I like that. I liked when you compared women to timeshares, right? Some women are timeshares. Very few women are worth buying, investing, mortgage payments. Most women are pretty much just timeshares.
Well, let me step back on that. I wouldn't necessarily even say most women are timeshares. I would say this, and I say this a lot on my channel. Every woman's a slut or a whore if you catch her on the right day.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. If you motivate her correctly, that's the case. That was the whole moral of the story of the movie Indecent Proposal.
Yeah,
where the guy and the woman were in this committed relationship, and this rich guy rolls up and is like, "Hey, I want to bang your woman for $1 million." He says no. She goes and fucks him anyway and takes $1 million. Right?
There you go.
That's female hypergamy. But the reality is that if you are a red pill man, if you're a masculine man, if you follow red pill wisdom from the guys on this panel, from the guys in Red Man Group in general, from the guys from 21 Convention. I know guys who've been in marriages that have been over 20 years and they're highly successful. So, it's not that marriage is bad. It's not necessarily, it's just that you have to figure out your risk tolerance. Now, and I will say this, my view on this at some level has evolved over time, but I think it's a question of, it's your cost benefit analysis on the individual woman, and on top of that, it is what your risk tolerance is as well. And if you can manage those things, hey, go get in a committed relationship, Go get married. Go do what you do. For myself, I have a different decision for myself. But just because I made one decision doesn't mean that anybody else has to make that decision or even a decision similar.
Steve said that's exactly what Steve said. Just because it went a certain way for you doesn't mean it's going to go a certain way for everybody, because everybody is different. People, red pill men live lives very differently from one another. They can all be red pill, but it doesn't always have to be the same thing.
Right. And I would say, I agree wholeheartedly.
Bobby, let me get your thoughts on what we were talking about a little bit earlier. How can men figure out the difference between, because you have intimate experience with this to some degree. How can you figure out if a man is a false prophet or really is who he says he is?
Yeah, that was something I tell people half jokingly, that with the time that I did in institutions, I have a PhD's worth of knowledge on a lot of different levels, and one of them is sniffing bullshit in people like quickly, and that's, here's one of the things that you can try and that helps you sniff bullshit or sniff a false prophet. We can go that way too. The hard, cold truth about life is that there's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
Okay. And what you'll find is people will try and prop themselves up about how learned and smart they are, and they'll come up with a bunch of different terminologies or ideologies, which is all just basically the same stuff.
Right.
Okay? Let me tell you something. MG Tau or MGTOW or whatever. I got old Italian uncles that were MGTOW before that was even a fucking thing. Okay.
Yep. No. He's right. He's right on the money.
I love it.
That there's stuff that's been around and it's been here, but now because we're so learned and because we have the internet and a soapbox, we can repackage things, push it like it's our own, and then start. And this is a point that I believe DDJ made. The shaming part, and that's a big indicator as well. Okay, so you have somebody that's trying to repackage something, and then they're either shaming you or using some kind of sales or marketing tactic on you in order to drive the message, right? One of the reasons why I wrote the code was because I was getting a lot of these questions in my DMs from young men from all over the world. I was getting consultation phone calls too. And I mean, guys from India, from the UAE, from Ireland, like all over the place, right? And they're asking me these very basic questions that I was just kind of taking for granted growing up, because it was just stuff I learned, from my grandpa and my uncles about how to be a man, how to act. So I wrote the code as kind of a starting book for these younger guys, and it wasn't under the guise of or under the banner of like red pill, if you will. It was just under the banner of more like, hey, you want to learn how to be a better person? Here's where you start. You're right, exactly. So you are responsible for you. I believe that. Okay, so when we talk about everything is your fault, I believe that for you. Okay, so you aren't responsible for other people. So what other people are going to do, that's on them. You're only responsible for what you do and for what your actions are. How you deal with outside circumstances, okay, shows what kind of skill sets and disciplines you have as an adult, right? So if you're going to freak the fuck out because somebody, hurt you or broke your heart, and you're going to go crazy and depressed and, want to kill yourself or whatever, you're showing me what kind of skill sets you possess, versus somebody that is able to, you can have emotions and be hurt, but you don't lose your shit and you keep going, right? You develop this. There is no blanket answer. Everybody's different. Okay. DDJ was talking about the single mom, and that, and yeah, there is that, and then there's also the opposite end of the spectrum about chasing perfection. And if you chase a certain ideal that's set up for you as a woman that you're never going to find in some of this literature that these men have said this is the type of woman you should have, and and then you never end up finding her because you basically were reading about a unicorn. Okay. So,
Right.
I mean, there's, you know, so there's all this, there's these different ways that you can deal with different situations, but the main answer is you're not going to have everything like just a cut and dry answer, like, okay, this happened, so I'm going to do answer number 3. Okay, this happened, so let's do answer number 5. No, things are different, things are fluid, you have to move. The way you spot bullshit is by the people that are trying to shame you or sell you into something, tell you you're not worth a shit if you don't do what they're doing. And usually there's some type of price tag or some type of come up involved, like, oh yeah, you know, blah, 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 blah. And you need to come to my event that, you know, is whatever, right? And that's the only way that you're going to be that type of stuff. Here's what it is, man. You want to look for the people, if you're going to look for somebody, you want to look for somebody that's interested in seeing you grow as a person. Somebody that's interested in seeing you rise levels. Somebody that's not trying to hold you back, but somebody that's got that encouragement. You know, yeah, here you go. This is the way you do it. You know, hey, come this way. Good idea, bad idea, mentorship, all that. But just like these blanket salesmen that have this this like almost fear of missing out. Like if you don't go with them, you're fucked. That usually reeks of a false prophet.
Okay. My take on this. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm hearing everybody.
Okay, very good. My take on this is it's rather simple. And there are many ways you can tell a false prophet, but within the realm of the red pill, the way that I would distinguish somebody who probably has a good handle on women versus somebody who doesn't is a man who only talks about his successes, right? We got a lot of guys oftentimes in our chat. They come into the chat, oh, I fuck nothing but 9s and 10s. No, you don't, right? Oh, I've never been cheated on. Or, you know, if I don't give a shit how hot she is. If she fucks up even one time, she's out, right? False prophets are guys who speak in gross definitivities, right? And again, we have these sayings, all women are like that. And when we say all women are like that, we're not saying that all women are the same. No, what we're saying is that all women operate under the same basic set of principles in terms of finding a mate. This is what we mean when all
female nature.
Right, exactly. But any man who gets on here and talks about the red pill and only highlights his successes and none of his failures, that's a guy you need to watch out for. Because you can learn in victory, but you learn a lot more in defeat than you ever did in victory. That's just my 2 cents.
That's one of the reasons. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Real quick, Donovan. That's one of the reasons why I put my past out there to people, because it's about as low as you can go. But I learned some of the most gnarly lessons that you can learn that I don't think you can learn any other way. Because while encouraging people to read, you know, there is no teacher like experience.
That's right.
You can read so far, but you will never be taught something unless you go through it. You will not know the whole. You know, which is
why I say, which is why I tell people, don't socially isolate. If you can be around other men, steel sharpens steel. Because when you're in somebody's face and you're talking to each other man to man, face to face, and you're full of shit, a man will call you out on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. What were your thoughts on this? You said you had something else?
Yeah, I do. So I agree that this idea of chasing perfection is an absolute fucking mistake. And again, guys who speak in absolutes, unless it's, you know, don't stick your hand in the grinder or don't touch the hot stove, maybe that's an absolute we can go with. But I think for the rest of it, for the majority of it, I think that's, you know, again, the idea of chasing perfection, the reality is this. Most wisdom when it comes to this chase perfection comes from guys who've never been laid. It's guys who read books, they learn the lingo, and then they talk the shit. Exactly. And the same thing is true from the guys who say, you know, don't chase the damaged woman. The reality is again, you know, you have to keep their aces in the places. If you know the girl is not relationship material, but you still want to hang out with her, go for it. Just make sure you mitigate your risk. You know, it is what it is. I also think too, that one of the things that, and this is a valid argument that I think everybody on this panel has brought up both in this stream and in others, is this. And this is a common criticism of the MGTOW community, and I think it's somewhat accurate. And that is, as red pill men, we need to learn from our mistakes. We can't dwell on them.
Right.
This is why I'm telling people, you have to look ahead. You can't be looking behind you all the time. You have to learn from the mistakes that you've made, just like what Bobby says. You have to learn from the mistakes you made, but you can't dwell on those mistakes. You have to regain your frame. You have to, implement that wisdom in reality. You can't just read about it. And that's how you overcome it. That's why Bobby was able to overcome the challenges he's gotten through. That's why I've been able to overcome the challenges that I've been through. And the thing about accountability is this: when you learn from your mistakes, you don't make the same mistakes over and over and over again.
Right.
And the other thing that I want to say is as well, those guys who talk about their successes and this and this and that, and I fucked all these women. No, you didn't. And I will say this: the same is true for the guys who all they do is talk about their failure. Listen, nobody wants to learn from your loser example. Right? You're not somebody, right? Don't fucking sit and whine about your shit. Like, let me give an example. And again, I don't want to tangent too much, but it's important.
You're good.
So like I went through a really bad divorce, and I had to protect my children. It took me 5 years to do it. I ran across a guy probably 2 months ago who was going through a similar issue, and he wanted help. And I totally get that. I respect it. But he was having a difficult time finding an attorney. He was having a difficult time trying to figure it out. But what the reality ended up being was that all he wanted to do was to have somebody else take care of his problem, and he wasn't willing to man up and do the work necessary to protect his children himself. He wasn't willing to do the work. He wanted someone else to do it for him. That's not a red pill man. And I chastised him for it. I said, look, if you're not willing to learn the court rules, if you're not willing to learn the court procedures, if you're not willing to walk into court by yourself, if you can't get anybody else to do it, I got nothing for you. Because if you can't find an attorney, or you choose to not afford an attorney because he had a good job, he just didn't want to pay the money, I said, that's on you. That's a conversation you're going to have with your children down the road, and you're going to have to explain to them why you wouldn't do what you needed to do to protect them. So
a good attorney is worth their weight in gold too.
It is.
Just anybody listening, if you have questions on about like, oh, should I spend the money on the attorney or whatever? If you need one, do it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
But that's my point, is when you can't or you're unwilling to do something like that, and you're unwilling to take responsibility, to take accountability, and you make the same mistakes over and over again, that is the definition of insanity. And it doesn't matter if you call yourself a particular label or not. And Bobby, you hit the nail on the head. There were guys, I knew guys when I was a child who were living what we now refer to as a MGTOW lifestyle. They were just called confirmed bachelors. So yeah, I totally get it. That's why I think it's important that we build bridges across the manosphere, as opposed to let's just focus on the fucking 3 degrees of difference we have, and let's just whine about that. How about you go play hide and go fuck yourself and let the real men do the talking? So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get off my soapbox now, because I know Steve wanted to say something.
Yeah, Steve, get in here. And after Steve, we've got a caller on the line. 512. We're going to come to you in just a few minutes.
Real quick, I wanna kind of ping off what Bobby said, because a lot of people are under this impression that the internet brought new things. It's brand new and it's never been seen or done or said before. What a lot of young men don't need to do is learn their history of how all that PUA and seduction shit even started. It was like the Elvis Presley thing, where Elvis stole rock and roll from I forgot old boy's name, and
somebody like that or something like that.
Well, what's happening? And I tell you, they're white pimps, white Japanese hustlers, Russian Macs, and I don't know, Jamaican players. They're all different. See, when people look at pimps, Macs, hustlers, and players, they think just black men.
Right.
They were white men. They're all different races of men doing that, but the game was never about the women. What these guys did was they tried to nitpick from those guys to try to create something. Then that's where all this stuff spun off, where everybody thinks all these little gimmicks and stuff are brand new. All this stuff came from the streets. But the thing about the streets was the game wasn't about women. The game had nothing to do with women. Women were a perk. They were a little perk of what men were doing. Men were
An asset or a liability. One of
Right.
the two.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
No in between.
No in between. So a lot of these young guys that are the false prophets, they're not teaching these young boys. Look, the game has nothing to do with women. The women women are a perk.
Right.
Have nothing to do with women. But you gotta know how to straighten one out. And I don't mean physical, but I'm saying that men are men and kings are kings. You know, this thing has been going on before electricity and fire for all these young kids out there. They think it's brand new because they've never seen it before.
Right.
So they act like it's never happened before. And that was something I wanted to kick off with Bobby was saying, because Bobby's right. Everything that has been done, said, and all that shit in between.
Done before,
Even before electricity, that shit been going down. So
Benjamin Franklin had game when he had the key on the kite, right?
So what we're saying is pimp hand strong.
Well, it's not even pimp. It's pimp, Mac, player. They all,
I know.
they all were about other things than women. Women came along as a consolation prize because the women saw the men being men. That's what drew them in. So it wasn't like Bobby was saying. Like I said, I know you got a call, but I just want.
That makes sense, though, Steve. Listen, you're onto something. You're absolutely right. And 512, we're going to come to you in just a second. The game is not, and we don't figure this out until we really figure it out. And what that is that game, the red pill, has little to do with women when you figure it out. All you figure out is that all you have to do, live your life, be unapologetic, do what you want to do, have masculine hobbies, and live your life for yourself. And women are going to be attracted to you as a natural byproduct of your lifestyle. And that's the way they used to do it back in the day. They didn't do anything for women. Women just happened to be a perk. Well, what's happened today is that guys are taking what guys did for themselves, and they're using it for women. Well, I did this and that and the other, and I'm still not getting women. Yeah, that's because you are doing it for women. How about lifting weights so that you can be strong instead of just more attractive to the opposite sex? That's a very good point that Steve just made.
Absolutely.
914-205-5356 is the number to call. Area code 512. You are on live with the Red Band Group. Go ahead.
Hey guys, this is more of a response to last week, when DDJ brought up the issue of being politically involved. And, certainly we can get politically involved, but what are we going to do about these damned colleges where all of this blue pill horse manure is spewed and enforced? And, colleges are kind of like a self-selecting group. They don't really, let in people outside of their group. I mean,
right.
That's where all this cultural Marxist stuff started long before it infected our politics.
I can hit that.
Yeah, DDJ, what do you have on that?
All right, so here's the thing, caller. I think you make extremely valid points. I'm actually getting ready to do a video on this. Hopefully, it'll come out next week. The reality is that what's happening is that you're talking about the Title IX tribunals that came out under Obama, and about the witch hunts that were coming out with the Me Too movement on the college campuses. Here's what's going on. The men who are defending themselves, the men who are demanding their due process rights, in other words, the right to a impartial tribunal, the right to see all the evidence against them, the right to be represented by counsel, and the right for the colleges to follow the due process, those men are winning. And they are winning in droves. Now, here's the reality that the mainstream isn't going to tell you, but I've done a lot of research on this, and that is that 70% of the men who sue the colleges that discriminate against them in this way, they win. And 40% of those lawsuits, the colleges don't even try to defend. They're like, yep, you got us. Because the colleges themselves, they know they're witch hunting. They know they're fucking up. And when you call them out on it, especially in a federal court case, they bend over and they take it. And they're like, shit. So what happens is these men, even though their reputation gets damaged, they get paid, they get reinstated into college, and the accountability shows up. And this is happening so much that a lot of colleges, like you take a look at Mizzou, the college numbers of students are down. You look at Evergreen State College in Washington State, the college numbers are down because the college students aren't putting up with this shit. And what people are realizing is that this systemic discrimination, when it comes to this Title IX witch hunt and when it comes to the Marxism, people are not putting up with it. And here's another thing, is that people are starting to figure out that the majority of the Antifa Marxists that are committing violence, they're college employees. Okay, they're professors, they're adjunct professors, they're people who work for the colleges. And so what ends up happening is that now you're starting to see, guys, there's a professor in Michigan. All he does is file Title IX complaints against Marxists and communists and socialists on college campuses because he's saying, look, they discriminate. You see, the thing about it is that Marxism and socialism and this whole, feminist bullshit ideology, all of it is incompatible with the United States Constitution. And because a lot of these colleges are public places of institution, they are required to follow constitutional protections. They are required to follow due process protections. So when you don't do that, what ends up happening is that the people who stand up and defend themselves, they're winning. And they're winning far more often than anybody else's. I would have to say that when it comes to colleges, their days are numbered when they're allowed to do this. And frankly, I think what should be happening is that a lot of these men who get targeted by these colleges, they should be contacting the federal government and saying, why are you funding these colleges when all they're doing is indoctrinating terrorists rather than teaching our children and teaching our next generation? So that's kind of my view on it. And I think things are bad like you say they are, but the solution is well on its way.
Excellent. My thoughts, pardon me, my thoughts on this are similar to DDJ's. I haven't done quite as much research or anything like that, but college is the jig is up on colleges. I think something like 2 out of every 3 college student is a female. College isn't good for men. The path that men should take is vocational school. If you want to learn a skill or a trade, go to vocational school, go to trade school. College is a dead end for men. It is becoming it's becoming a liability for men to go to college. When you go to college, you might get a degree, right? That could be an asset. And even then, you can't really do much with a college degree now anyway. But when you walk onto a college campus as a male, you open yourself up to all kinds of stuff. #MeToo, Title IX, false rape accusations. All a girl has to do is accuse you of rape. She didn't even have to say rape. She can just say he sexually assaulted me. They strip you of your college degree, or they kick you out. It is becoming the risk is becoming a lot more. It's becoming much more of a risk than it's worth. I think that's one of the reasons why college numbers are down. College numbers in terms of, and I haven't done any research, but the college numbers are down. My guess is that women are still going to college. Women are still going to college in droves, but guys are starting to wake up. They're starting to figure out, you know what? It's not really worth it to go to college. Why am I going to go $200,000 in debt only to get #MeToo, only to get Title IX by a woman that I rejected? It's a bad bet for men to go to college. We talked about risk aversion versus risk tolerant. Dude, you can be as risk tolerant as you want. Going to the typical American 4-year institution, whether you're risk tolerant or risk averse, you would be an idiot to do that.
Well, and let me.
Oh, go ahead.
I just want to add one more thing. Thank you, Bobby, and I apologize. So one of the things I would say too is if you're considering college and you're coming up on college age, right, and you're determining, like most people when they go to college, it's to get a job, it's to get a career, and a lot of young kids, they say, well, I don't really know what I want to do with life. My theory is this: you get a job that supports the lifestyle you want to live. And then you get the education to support the job that supports the lifestyle you want to live.
Right.
Now, what you're going to find is if you're considering college or you're considering tech school or things like that, every state in the United States has an unemployment office. If you go into that unemployment office, you can actually ask them for a list of what's called in-demand jobs. Cool. It'll not only show you what the in-demand jobs are for your state and for your employment market, but it will also show you what the starting wage is. It'll show you what kind of education you need for that particular job. You can go on Glassdoor and you could figure out what the median wage is for that job in your particular job market. Then what you do is you see whether or not that is a job that you want to go get the education for. And most times you're going to find out you don't like what Donovan said, you don't need a 4-year degree. You can go to trade school. Here's something a lot of people don't talk about. Did you know that if you join certain labor unions, like the electricians union and certain other unions, you join that union as a unskilled laborer, you can get into their apprentice program. If you get accepted, you're making $25, $30 an hour in the apprentice program, and they will train you to be a journeyman electrician.
Right.
And that standard applies everywhere in the country. I got a buddy of mine who he did that when he started his career. He became a crane operator. He made, at the end of his career, he was making $45 and $50 an hour, and he was traveling all around the country, getting all his expenses paid for, running crane.
So when I came home, I went through a 10 it was 10 periods, 5 years. But I'm a union journeyman millwright, and that's how I made all my money. I worked in oil refineries mostly, although I did do a couple power plants. But I am, if I were to go back to work right now, as like, just say, screw it, I'm going to go be a millwright again, and go back I'd start at about $48 an hour.
Right.
As a journeyman. And by the way, you could take some of those journeyman classes. You were able to do it down in Orange, and actually use some of those classes as a credit to where they'd give you an associate's degrees worth of they'd give you like an AA along to go with it if you signed up, because you were doing a 5-year apprenticeship. I mean,
right.
Yeah. So I wasn't meaning to interrupt. If you had more to do, or if you were still going to,
no,
I
go
want
for
to
it. I'm
touch on
done.
that because I'm validating what you're saying, because I did it, and I made money fast. I raised my hand for overtime, and you get time and a half and double time depending on which days you're working. We used to do this thing called 7-12s, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day.
Yep.
And man, let me tell you something. I would stay even longer. The longest work week I've ever had was 107 hours.
God.
A 7-12 I think is about 84 hours. If you have a 7-12.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's possible. I did it. So any of you guys, wondering about that aspect, I made a lot. I made 6 figures my first year as an apprentice, because and DDJ is absolutely right. You get a per diem if you have to go somewhere, and that per diem's separate and it's not taxable. So they give you a living wage on top of stuff. It's crazy, man. And if you get hooked up with a good contractor, they'll really take care of you. I just wanted to touch on what the caller was talking about the craziness in the colleges, because I'm in California, and I'm in the Bay Area, California, and more specifically, I'm near Berkeley. So I'm right kind of in the center of all this like crazy, like way liberal madness and thinking, to where they're not letting people speak on the campuses, and they're freaking the fuck out and lighting things on fire and all this stuff. Craziness. And part of, the caller was asking, what do we do about this? Well, we have to do a 180, because there has to be a different type of change or plan implemented in these schools. Otherwise, it's just going to keep going. Part of what we're doing with trying to instruct men how to be better men can help, because as Donovan was saying, it is a very, very female-oriented atmosphere. Most of the professors, a lot of them are female as well. And so this is what I recommend. If you're going to do something that is very technical, like be a doctor, or be a lawyer, something like that, absolutely go to college.
Like pre-law,
you'd be a fool not to, like that. You have to. And I totally, we need those people. Okay. If you're thinking about, getting a master's in 18th century Native American pottery, like it's not going to work out for you. Do something else. Like that's just it's not realistic.
That is not going to work out for you.
Yeah. So think about your plan and think about what you want to do. But this madness that's going on in the schools, man, that's not going to change. And I hate to say that, but unless there is some kind of drastic 180 from my angle, and from what it's only like going faster down the hill. Like it's only picking up momentum.
Got a check question here from Nova Roma says, quote, how do you avoid girls with college debt? Steve, you want to answer that one for me?
Yeah, this is this is what we always say what the problem is. Y'all worrying about things that have nothing to even do with anything at all. What does her college debt got to do with you and what you say to her and how you stand on your own principles? Why are you looking to things that have this is Dom, what I don't understand about these young men is that you're putting the cart before the buggy?
Cart before the horse. Yeah.
Cart before the horse, excuse me. You're worrying about things that have nothing to do with anything. You haven't even approached, nor talked to, nor text, or dated, or got to know her better. So why are you even worried about something that has nothing to do with anything? This is what's wrong with y'all guys. See, this is a part of the false prophet thing I was telling you, Donovan. A lot of these guys have followed these false prophets into thinking about things just like this right here. And let me tell you something, and I want to say this to you now, and this is
they avoid girls with college debt. Why?
Right. I love the question, but here's the thing that you got to understand. Don't think these women are stupid. Don't think these women know your thinking is the same thing that comes along with your approach, comes along with the way you text and the way you date. And if you ain't thinking about yourself and all you're doing is thinking about her debt, you might as well call yourself Hansel and just wait to follow the Gretel into the gingerbread house because you gonna get got, fam.
Yo, as soon as you said
it's true. No, that's absolutely true. And I think that's the thing that, let me ask you something. I mean, you know, and this goes to anybody. This isn't just the questioner. Sure. Do you plan on fucking her college debt?
Right. I just don't. I mean, I think it's an honest question. I just don't.
Yeah. I mean, I get that, like, guys are sitting here and they're looking for relationships and shit. But the reality is that, you know, I personally don't think that any man, and I say this as a man who got married young, and of course, this is like, you know, obviously I made the mistake twice for my own thing in as far as like my own mistakes that I made. But I don't think a man should get married before they're 30. I think you need to go out, you need to live your life. You need to experience the world. You need to get your trial and error in. You need to learn from your failures and your successes. You need to take in the wisdom, and you need to focus on yourself. Then when you're, you know, if you decide that marriage is the path you want to go through, you now have a lot more wisdom, knowledge, and experience that you can make a better cost benefit analysis and a more informed decision. And again, I'm the guy who doesn't promote marriage, but I'm saying that that's only because of myself and because of the people around me. But if you're a guy who promotes marriage, great, go do that. Just don't be a dumbass about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It would be stupid to go into anything. And listen, I say this all the time. Nobody is saying avoid relationships altogether. Listen, Steve's been married for over 20 years. He's not going to tell you don't get married because it's working for him, right? I'm not going to tell guys, well, don't get into a relationship because for the time being, it seems to be working for me. But I think at the end of the day, and all of you have hit on this at some point during today's show, the red pill it's wisdom. It is a praxeology, but it is wisdom. What you decide to do with it is up to you. All we can do, it's almost, I don't want to say it's like raising kids, but it kind of is. I don't have any kids, but as a parent, and DDJ and Steve, you guys can probably speak to this, you too, Bobby, as parents, when kids are young, you have to parent them. But when they get older, when they get 15, 16 years old, if they want to do something, they're going to do it. You're relegated really to just being a consultant. Hey, mom, dad, what should I do? What should I not do? Now, obviously, you don't want to lead them, you know, down the path of destruction. But how that relates to the red pill is that the red pill is just information, right? What you choose to do with that information is totally up to you. I'm going to use this information differently than the way Bobby uses it. He's going to use it differently than the way Steve uses it. And he's going to use it differently than the way DDJ uses. Nobody is telling you you have to live the red pill life. What we are telling you is that, hey, the wool has been pulled over your eyes. This is the truth. What you are living is a lie. And
well, let's clarify that. Everybody is telling you that you should be living a red pill life, but how you choose to live it is up to you.
I agree 100%. And let me get your thoughts on this too, DDJ. When it comes to advising men on living that red pill life, it is and a lot of guys, what they don't realize is that living the red pill life, it ain't for everybody. It's just not, because living the red pill life is very, very difficult. It's not easy. Some guys may know the truth. Some guys may say, you know what? I know the red pill is true, I know that women are fucked up. I can't do it. I don't have the desire, nor do I have the know-how. What do you say to guys like that?
Well, I tell guys basically to do what I do. You ghost. And what I mean by that is, see, what a lot of people don't understand is that, you know, camouflage doesn't necessarily mean don't be there. It doesn't necessarily mean, you know, I'm going to go ahead and withdraw from society and burn my shit for warmth. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But anybody with military experience knows that the perfect camouflage is to blend in.
Right.
And so the idea here is that, you know, you may have this red pill knowledge and this red pill wisdom, but if you run around and go spout this red pill knowledge and red pill wisdom, you're going to lose your wife, you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your career, and you're going to end up destitute in poverty. So what I tell guys is, look, use the knowledge, use the wisdom, use that red pill to navigate those set of circumstances, but God damn it, don't ever talk about it.
Yes.
You know, unless you're with a group of guys who you're mentoring or guys that you trust who are also red pill, but don't ever talk about it, because I'll tell you what, there are a lot of haters out there and there are a lot of insecure people. And what you'll find out is that a lot of these people, they think you're one way when you got to be another way. And I'll tell you, one of the best ways to ghost is to read the book and implement the knowledge, 48 Laws of Power.
Ooh, Robert Greene,
you know, and again, I'm not saying read the book just to read the book and implement the knowledge and wisdom, because that book will teach you how to ghost in a blue pill society and survive. You look at, who's the guy's name? Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro got his law degree and got his undergraduate degree in socialist California. And he had to ghost all through school in order to get to it. And he got like he had everybody thinking that he was like the social justice guy. And then he got his bar card and he's like, all right, motherfucker, fuck all y'all. So, you know, once he got the equivalent of fuck you money, he was like, now you can't touch me. So understand that, yeah, when it comes to these things and when you're operating at this level, you need to be able to ghost. You need to be able to camouflage yourself and blend in. That's a survival skill, because you can't and you shouldn't fight every fight, because if you do, then you have no clue of how to make peace.
Well said. We got a good super chat question in here, and I want to get Steve and Bobby's input on this one. Comes from Nonstop Dre 360 with the $4.99 super chat. He asks, is a computer science still a good STEM degree, or should I go for a trade? I'm a 22-year-old United States Marine Corps veteran in college, going monk using my Montgomery GI Bill. Steve, what do you advise him to do here?
I would advise you like I would advise any young man. I can't give you or tell you what you should do as a man when it comes to building your career in your life. I don't have any knowledge on those things, but what I would say to you, young man, is that you need to just get a sheet of paper down and write both of those degrees down and write the benefits of both of those.
That's a lost start, man.
Yeah, for you yourself, you have to figure. See, young man, again, I mean, we everybody on this panel, we got love for all you guys, you know, and like you say, some of y'all guys do see us as father figures and uncles that you never had and all the other stuff. But what I'm saying, because I got love for you, is I'm saying that what I want you to do is I want you to look at what is going to benefit you. Because from my perspective, I couldn't even tell you, because I don't know anything about those. Now, when it comes to being a whore, a gigolo, and a man, I got you. I could tell you the world. But when it comes to this party,
look, here's how to do it there, young Padawan.
Yeah, exactly. I could cut your little string and shit. But no, what I'm saying is that what I would say for you, young man, is that I appreciate you asking the question, but for me, I want you to look at it what's best beneficial to you, young man, and for your life and your career. That's all I would have to say on that one, guys.
Very good. Good answer. Bobby, what do you advise?
Hey, Donovan, I got something for him. Now, should you go the trade way, okay, and with you being a United States Marine, just about every union I've ever even heard of nowadays has this program that's called Helmets to Hard Hats. Now, what that means is that even if their books are closed, like if there's a guy that the helmet being, you know, what you wore in the military and the hard hat being what you're going to wear when you're working, right? If you were a dude that was in the military, you can, through that program, apply to whichever union you'd like. Like it doesn't even necessarily need to be the one you're thinking of now. Go through, look at the different unions, see what they're, and that's, you can find that information public. They don't hide it. You can call them and ask, you know, you can go down there, get the paper that explains it. but you can see their pay wages, you know, and then see what they top out at, meaning what will you make as a journeyman. You can even, if you're ambitious, you can look and see what you'll make as a foreman or a supervisor too. And then compare them. And then once you do compare them, think about the environment you're going to be in. Okay.
There we go.
Well, because you may look at a job and it says, oh, hey, you know, I do this or whatever, but you're out on a platform out in the middle of the ocean. Is that where you want to be? Is that the work environment you like? You know, I mean, it pays very well.
Oh,
there's just there's certain things that you have to consider when choosing, you know, electrician, if you're going to be a pipe fitter, you know, a pile driver. There's all different types of unions.
I think you were talking about Steve when you were saying that, right? He's a pipe fitter and a pile driver.
Yeah, he's.
Right?
I was thinking the pile driver.
Oh, yeah, the pile driver extraordinaire. No, but the point being is that you don't need to think that should you not go for your college degree that you're going to end up in some sort of failure. On the contrary, should you enter a union and be active and be picked up? And let me tell you something too. Contractors love ex-military guys. So if when you go in, like, make sure that that's known, you know, like, oh yeah, I was in there. I mean, I'm not saying you got to go around with a sticker on your forehead, but, you know, but make sure you drop it to people to where it's known, and because they're loved. And you'll be picked up with a contractor. You probably have more steady work there than you would with a degree. In what was he saying? Was it in poli-sci or what?
No, he said
computer
it was
science.
Computer science.
Oh, computer science. Oh, okay. Yeah, and I'm not. And listen, I'm one personally. Like, I've read so many books. I was at the point when I was in the system to where I was reading 2 to 3 books a week. So wow. Like I've read a lot, you know, and I don't ever tell anybody. I don't ever tell anybody turn away knowledge. I'm somebody that says constantly learn every day, you know. So if that's where your mindset is and you want, then go for it. I'm just telling you, should you want to do the union thing with the helmets, write it down. Helmets to hard hats. Write down, look at different unions and compare scale wages where you top out as a journeyman. You have a lot of options there, especially with your background. They love guys like you.
Excellent. DDJ, and 813, we're going to get to you in a second. I see you in the queue. DDJ, you said you had something to add to this.
Yeah, real quickly, I would also say this too. I mean, a lot of computer science jobs are being shipped overseas to immigrants with H1B visas, H2B visas. So what I would suggest is this, is if you're going to be in a computer science field, look for what the in-demand fields still are, and make sure you can get a job. I lived in Washington State for a long time, and let me tell you something, I could throw a rock in any direction and I could hit a person with a bachelor's or a master's degree in computer science or some element of that, and they were all like working in grocery or working as baristas or everything else. So just be real careful with what specific fields you get into when it comes to computer science. And I agree with what Bobby said and completely. But the final thing I really wanted to touch on, cost-benefit analysis. When you're making your decision, you got to do a cost-benefit analysis. And Steve the Dean Williams hit the nail on the head when he described the Ben Franklin method. And what the Ben Franklin method is again, you take a piece of paper and you write the pros on one side, you write the cons on the other side, you write them out so you can see them, you think about them, leave the piece of paper on the table, let it sit for a couple days, and then come back later on and look at it again and see if your position has changed. Because again, you want to make the most informed decision possible, whether you'd go for a 4-year degree or a 6-year degree or an 8-year degree, or whether or not you want to go into a trade. Like Bobby said, always be learning, have as much information as you possibly can before you make that decision. Use that Ben Franklin method. And anybody listening to this stream, anytime you have an important decision to make, use that method that Steve the Dean Williams outlined, because I'll tell you what, you'll never go wrong with it.
Yeah, that's something of a lost art. A lot of people don't realize the profound effect that physically writing out the pros and the cons and putting it on a sheet of paper in front of you, they don't realize that does have a profound effect. Like, you can actually see and visualize this. It's might not seem like a big deal. My quick advice is trade school. I wouldn't do anything having to do with, just like you said, computer science. A lot of people have computer science degrees. STEM degrees are fine, but then again, You have a lot of women who are in STEM fields. And if you do get a STEM degree and a STEM career, you're going to have to understand, you're going to, just like Bobby said, you got to think about the work environment. No, you don't want to be on an oil rig out in the middle of the Atlantic, but you don't want to be in an office full of purple-haired, feminist sluts either.
But nurses are great in bed.
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
Just remember helmets to hard hats. Remember that.
Hard hats.
Should you go to the trade and they'll open, even if the doors are closed to everyone else, they'll open them for you.
Real quick before we go to 813, Taboo Smash with the $5 super chat says, is it a good idea to get a CS degree to do web developer? Yes, 1,000 times yes. My girlfriend Devin is she's very good at internet marketing, and there's always a shortage of web developers. If you are a good web developer, you will never ever be without work. That's my 2 cents on that. 914-205-5356 is the number to call if you want to get in on the show. Area code 813. You are on with the Red Band Group. Go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, just to answer that guy's question, I was in that field for 20 plus years. So I got into the sales side of things of IT and made a ton of money. But the guys that got the degrees in the computer science, what they want to do is if they do go that route, they want to focus on getting certifications and don't worry about college. You'll get paid a ton of money for the hot certification, and you can call the recruiters that are in those fields and they'll tell you what's going to be hot, and you can get those within a year or two. That's the way to go.
Okay, so you called in to give that guy advice.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I was just
no, that's okay. We like
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Okay.
No, that's.
Well, I appreciate. I've listened to a lot. Thanks,
man. Appreciate the call.
Hey, caller. I just wanted to say he brought up a very good point. I know somebody that does some computer work as well, and they're constantly getting these different certs to where it'll bring them to a different level that they can work at. And as far as recruiters go, I don't know what the technical recruiters how they work per se, but I know that the medical recruiters, even though my wife has worked with a certain company for years now, they still reach out to her. Hey, do you do? So if you do get involved, and that is something that you're going to be looking for different work, maybe getting on a recruiter's list isn't too bad of an idea either.
That's something I wouldn't have thought of. That's something.
You can go on LinkedIn and get on all the recruiters. That's how you can access them. A friend of mine, he was going to retire and he had no idea how to do anything with Google. And he went and got a 2-year certification, came out just doing brand new Google. I forget what the certification was, but he basically was making $150K a year with just that certification. Wow. And that's all he needed. He didn't need anything else but that. Just to give you an idea.
Excellent. Good call, man. Thanks for calling in, 813. I like it when callers call in and they listen to the show. They say, hey, just to answer that guy's question, because listen, we don't have all the answers, right? I mean, that's clearly out of my realm. All I can do is give you the advice that I feel like it's good for guys to call in. And
he just gave actionable advice right there. That caller did.
Right.
And some really good actionable advice to the men that may be in the chat or the men that are listening to what he just said as far as the certs and the recruiters and all that. Write that down if you're looking for work, because that's something that you can do and you can get started on.
Good stuff, man. Nonstop Dre with the $1.99 super chat. He says, thanks for the wisdom, guys. Absolutely. Nonstop Dre is the Marine, the guy in the Marine Corps. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here on the Red Man Group. This has actually been a very good episode. Very informative. I like when we can start off on one subject matter and then we can just go take a complete left turn. Of course, I'll make all of the corrections in the description. Before we sign off, let me just go around the panel and talk about what you have done last week and what you plan to do this week. Let's start with Bobby Dino, man. What have you been working on? What are you working on? What's here? What's in the not too distant future for you?
So it's not happening next week, but it's what I've been working on.
Right.
I've got a party coming up in Napa Valley. Got some big names that are going to be there. Ed Lattimore,
Good.
Alexander Cortez, Ivan Throne, PD Mangan. They're going to be
Is
at
it
this
Tanner
party.
Guzzi supposed to be out there too?
I'm sorry?
Is Tanner Guzzi supposed to be out there too, or no?
I don't know if Tanner's coming. I hadn't heard that. That's news
Okay.
to me. But he's more than welcome. Shoot.
All right.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, but so I've been working with that, and there's still other work that's being done with the writing and the nonprofit. But everything's just slugging along and taking the calls from different people. I appreciate them, the DMs and all that, and just kind of giving back, making sure that people are living their best lives.
Excellent, man. Excellent. So looking forward to that. I guess you'll be promoting that on social media here within the next week or so. Steve,
Sure.
What's going on with you, man?
Just getting ready to be flying out. Just get ready for Poland.
That's right. You're going to Poland, man. You'll be at the 21 Con in Poland.
At 21Con, I fly out Monday. So what I've told everyone and everyone listening, we're gonna do a Red Pill Mindset show on this channel Sunday at 8:00.
Okay.
Make sure I do that for y'all guys. So we're gonna kick on a show Sunday at 8:00 here, and other than that, just going forward and guiding these young men best way I can, brother.
You the man, dude. DDJ, what's on tap for you coming up?
Okay, so last week, after the last Redman group show, I actually launched my new destination spot, misandrytoday.com.
Oh, shit.
It is a online magazine for people to go and seek red pill wisdom. But part of the reason that I launched the website is because I'm getting algorithmically censored by YouTube. And so I wanted a place where people can subscribe to the website. You can subscribe to it on the lower left-hand side and get notified anytime I put up an article or a video or anything else. So if you want to reach out, it's definitely at misandrytoday.com. Also, the website is set up for contributors. I do have contributors set up if you want to contribute articles, or you're a video content creator and you have a content relevant video that you want to throw up on the website, feel free to reach out. I will be happy to embed that video there with you as the contributor. If you want to write an article, feel free to definitely do that. Or you want to, send questions or things like that, you can do that. In addition to that, my DDJ's Inferno live stream has returned to twitch.tv at /misandrytoday. That's going to be running every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It'll run for about an hour to an hour and a half. We do a conversation portion, kind of a deep dive with one guest. Once that's done, we open it up to the Twitch audience for Q&A. So that's kind of the direction I'm headed. I've started bringing my video content back. I've been kind of hammering it pretty hard this week. I've had 3 or 4 live streams this week. Next week, I've got 3 videos scheduled to come out. I've got a new Her Story. I've got another dojo video. And then I've got another video about kind of what's been going on with YouTube as well. So that's kind of what's been going on. I've been doing a lot of networking behind the scenes, trying to get stuff done. And moving forward with that. So there's some things happening on my channel. There's some things happening with my content. And then in addition to all that, I'm still working on my book on divorce rape culture.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. As usual, guys, I've actually cut out TSR Primetime. I used to do an afternoon show and an evening show. And I just need a little bit more time to myself. I've worked very hard to get to this point. And I've sacrificed other areas in my life, my fitness level, my diet, my training. So it's time for me to sort of cash out a little bit and cut down on my workload. Get some things back going on that I had going on before. But I am going to have my my weekly call-in show on my Patreon page. It's going to be every Sunday at 5:00 p.m. Eastern. That is 2:00 p.m. Pacific. And of course, you guys can catch me on YouTube every weekday afternoon at noon, 12:00 Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. That is going to do it for this edition of the Redman Group. My thanks goes out to Bobby Dino, DDJ, and of course, Steve the Dean Williams. Thank you guys all for joining us. And I guess we will see you guys here next week.